Hello and welcome to the Furreal podcast, the show that discusses music, film, and most importantly, furries. I'm your host Matthew, also known as Hypebeast Dan, and today we have a very peculiar artist and creator with a very peculiar film and album choice as well, which we'll get on soon. It's Poppa Boi. Welcome to the show, my guy. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, yo, what's good? I'm doing alright. I'm tired. You're tired.
I'm tired.
It's all good.
Yeah, I've been at work for 8 hours since 6 in the morning. And I'm ready to try and project the rest of my energy and then just collapse once I finish this. But it's going to be wonderful. Going to have some great conversation about the choices and the stuff that you make. It's going to be great. Have you been up to much today then? Well, I mean, it's morning for you though, isn't it? So
yeah, it's about 12:47 at the time of this recording. And I was doing some work around the hotel. I was up pretty late. Went to bed at about 8 a.m. Woke up about an hour ago.
Oh man, some of my mates have sleeping patterns. That's I go to sleep at my flatmate. My flatmate goes to sleep sometimes. It's 6 in the morning, and he'll wake up at 5 p.m. And I just think to myself, sometimes when I hear him at 3 in the morning getting a snack or something or getting something to eat, I think someone's fucking breaking into my house. And I'm like, no, it's just Anderson being awake at this dumbass time. So would you say would you say your job messes up your sleep schedule and shit all the time? Because 8 in the morning, going to bed then. Woo.
Yeah, it screws around with it pretty big. Mm-hmm. Pretty big. But we make do. That's how it goes.
Gotta get that dough, gotta get that bread. Gotta live that life. Exactly.
It's a goddamn pandemic.
Damn, yeah. How has that affected your job? Is it more difficult, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I got 2 jobs. Less clientele, more uncertainty regarding where the next customer is going to come in from.
Yeah, definitely.
I got another job as a busser and waiter. I've been a barista this summer. I've been a pool hand, all sorts of stuff.
Being all around the world. All around the world in the job prospectus. That's fantastic. Anyway, let's jump straight right into it. Introduce yourself, the kind of stuff you make. This is your time to shine. Go for it.
So, I'm Poppa Boi. I am a walking, talking dog man. I supposedly am from Bolivia. No one's quite sure on that. Some say Bolivia. Of the North, Colombia, as one might call it. And basically, I see a talking, walking dog man. I'm like, that's cool. What if he had a gun? LA, that's really cool. Now let's throw on some unnecessarily loud music, make some edits in After Effects. Let's learn Blender. Oh, man, 8 hours just got wasted learning this new skill. But that's all right. I'll apply in the next video.
Exactly. That's so... See, when I read your application and I checked out your YouTube stuff, I was like, we can just talk shit about editing for ages. And that is exactly what we're going to do, because you're the first person on the podcast so far that their main creative kind of outlet is video editing and heavily video edited stuff. I'm not talking hey guys, what's going on kind of vlogs. I'm talking After Effects, masking, editing, putting fucking loads of random furry shit in videos. I just love it. I loved your stuff, and I was like, I really want to talk and discuss that. So yeah.
Hey, thank you, man.
Mm-hmm. Where would you say, let's start off by saying, where would you say your content lies? Because I think you have a diverse range of videos on your channel, but at the same time, they're all very heavily edited. Some of them tackle more commentary kind of stuff, but at the same time some of them are just pure mind fucks, and I love that so much.
Truth be told, it feels like I lie within no man's land. I'll release a video, let's just say it this well, for my standards. It's not uncommon for me to go through the comment section and you'll see maybe a 10-year-old kid who just thinks talking dogs are cool. You'll find people who don't consider video editing art. You'll find people who are kind of like you. They're like, what the hell? But hey, this ain't too bad. And it's just non-furries, furries. Even on the furries versus weaves video that I made a long time ago. Just people from all age ranges and everywhere. People start arguments in the comments, whether or not I'm a furry. And I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. So you have diverse content with a diverse audience, which I guess is nice because it switches it up for the kind of viewers, and it also switches it up in how you can kind of interpret how you portray your art in your videos as well, which is really interesting. I'm scrolling through now because you haven't made too many videos. That's the thing, but you have to keep in mind that After Effects, personally, someone who uses it, And I don't even use it to the extent that Poppa Boi does, because I make like shitty Beastars AMVs. I don't like track mask all the fucking like furry like that. You are now watching Poppa Boi videos. Your trailer is incredible. So many like things are going on. It's absolutely insane, and I just can't even imagine how long that would take to make. Honestly.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna give yourself some credit. Like, I've seen it. I've seen what you do.
Oh.
I actually liked it where the blood came out of the ass. I thought that was
Oh,
cool.
stop it! Stop it! You give me too.
Oh, you want me to stop? Okay, no, I'll just that's okay. So it's like it's all wretched no vomit. You'll do one thing for a week, and then you'll stop that as you get this other idea, because ADHD is surreal and how all encompassing it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll come back to that work later on in a few months from that time, and then you'll be able to do it extremely quickly because all the work was done a long time ago. You've forgotten how long it actually took. So I lose all track in time.
I do, yeah. I was telling you how I do this thing where I will work on an idea for a video non-stop for around like, I don't know, a week or two, but I will work non-stop on it, and then I'll get around like 80% finished, and then I'll just not do it, and I won't finish it, and I'll hit a hurdle, and I'll go, right, that's it. I can't be bothered to work on this shit anymore, and I'll either start a new project or a new video, or I'll just ignore it completely and just do something else that I enjoy doing, which, I mean, kind of sucks. I think one thing I'm going to try and do in terms of like creating projects is definitely stick to them. I think the podcast is definitely an example of an idea that I've definitely attempted to stick to, but I think the only reason I fully have is because when I released that teaser video, I already had a base amount of people that wanted to watch and listen to this content, and I had a base set audience, and I was like, oh shit, people are actually interested in this. Like, I'm gonna actually need to commit. Like, so I have, a few episodes down the line, it's going well. But I definitely do understand that where editing takes a lot of time, but as long as you focus on it and you just kind of like set your mind to it and know that you enjoy, like I find it easier because I enjoy editing, and obviously I do it as a degree as well. So it's good practice for getting used to the kind of skills and techniques that I can apply to my university work as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you on that.
Yeah, definitely. Let's focus on the aspect of furries. So you say you're in a weird kind of liminal space in furry stuff where you don't say you're a furry, but you're kind of on the edge. You have a furry character, but you don't have much experience in the furry community. So do you want to elaborate on that a bit?
It's a very wishy-washy furry community. God, what does that even mean? My sociology professor, I asked his ass about furries and internet subculture, and he was just like, dude, all I know were like what weeaboos are, and that's my extent. I don't go on the internet. So my professor wasn't any help in that regard, aside from the material that we read. And dude, like, regards to what the furry community actually encompasses, whether it's the the mentally deranged 3 a.m. posting where you're creating conspiracy theories regarding the government, but you're all doing it while you have dogman avatars, or whether you're on the other side of the spectrum and you're like doing like cutesy wootsy, very superficial.
Whoa.
Like, I don't know where it ends and where it begins, because what is the furry community? It's like, oh, it's like you think talking animal people are cool, and it's like, all right, yeah, talking animal people are cool. Is Mickey Mouse a furry? I don't know, but
yeah, to me, I think you're a furry if you say you're a furry. Everybody enjoys anthropomorphic animals from time to time. I mean, if you like Disney films that have those kind of animals, you are actively enjoying those animals. It's just more taking it to the next level of being engaged in a community that solely focuses on that aspect of creativity and like art. So definitely, it is a middle ground, and I do kind of see where you're coming from. So the dog that you use in your profile picture for the YouTube, and the dog that you use kind of in a lot of your videos, is that your Sona, or is that just a dog? It's just a random dog, that you're just chilling with?
For simplicity's sake, I just always say yes, my Sona. But if anyone ever asks for more in-depth explanation, I tell them what it is.
That's fair. So 4.65k subs. How long have you been doing YouTube for then? to kind of gain that? I mean, 4,000 over 4,000 people is still a good amount. That's a high amount of subscribers in my opinion. So how long have you been doing YouTube for then?
I've had the account since 2008,
Mm-hmm.
but really I've been doing YouTube since January of 2018.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. How did you kind of get into editing and stuff? Did you just kind of look at other creators, or was it something that you just kind of stumbled upon yourself in terms of interest?
I stumbled upon it because of VR chat, the Norwegian people, and loads of free time at university.
Oh, that's fair. I wish I had a lot of free time at university, but sadly I don't, which kind of sucks. But I mean, like I said, a lot of the stuff that I do in my spare time, like editing, can be applied to my degree anyway, so I can kind of integrate it and it's nice. So yeah. What is your most favorite video that you've made, would you say?
Oh, jeez. It's like asking an actor what's the favorite movie they ever did. Shit. I enlisted a lot of videos. A lot of videos. I have over 200 on my account. But only like 20 are visible or something. I have different favorite ones for different reasons. I'm the one that No, I didn't voice it. My friend Sugar Cubes did. I mean, Oopsie Whoopsie. I made that meme voice thing. I actually made it when I was 8 minutes late for class. I still remember that. I was walking out the door. And then I was thinking, wait a minute. No one's done this meme ID yet. So I rushed back to the computer and I did it and uploaded it. And I was like, oh man, we're going to get 500 views. It's going to be epic. And then it ended up getting over 400,000. So now it's like, I unlisted it because I didn't want to be the guy that just screams the same thing over and over.
Yo, that's mad.
Channel.
That's not on your YouTube channel though. So have you took that down, or is it just on a different channel?
It's just unlisted.
Unlisted. That's fair enough.
That's my most memorable, but I guess my favorite would be any of the VR chat videos, which I think I also unlisted.
Because I mean, you take VR chat and then you essentially make it it's hard to explain because it's like it's a VR chat video, but you just heavily edit and it looks so fucking cool, and I just love it so much. It's really, really interesting. What's your kind of thought process behind it? Because going back to the you and I watching Poppa Boi video that I watched when I first went on your channel, I just thought to myself, how can somebody make up such a weird video with so many elements and so many characters? Like, what's your thought process behind your videos? Like, it baffles me, honestly.
That's too kind of you to say, dare I say. But really, it's just, you're a dude on the internet. You got friends across the world. You got Yizzle in Israel. You got Dashun in Namibia. You got Liron, Curl in Brazil. You got boys all around the world. You got a little bit of time when you get home from work and you're tired. And, ADHD, being tired, which I'm sure you're familiar with, at least in this moment. You're just like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if this dude farted on the microphone and then Margaret Thatcher popped out of the corner? Like, it just, whatever happens, you just let it flow. And if you don't like it, you scrap that and you see what else could happen.
Are there any content creators and YouTubers you look up to for inspiration per se, or any kind of ideas that you look at? Because it kind of gave me vibes of this guy was he called like Syriac or some shit on YouTube? He did some like weird ass like edits and weird ass kind of videos, and it reminded me of that in a sense, but more of a furry kind of cartoony twist on it. So is there any YouTubers that you personally look up to for kind of inspiration?
I've heard the Syriac comparison before.
Oh, have you?
I have. I never watched too much of him, but I did like him. I enjoyed him. People, truth be told, I typically watch history, engineering, stuff like that on YouTube, because I typically just put YouTube on, listen to it while I'm doing work around the hotel, or maybe while I'm as busted. But regarding inspiration specifically, not what I usually consume. Have you ever heard of James Lee?
I haven't. James Lee.
Yeah. He's a trip.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm seeing some. Yes, I've seen the breaking up with Adobe video. I've seen that. That's a really good video. And thinking back to how that video is, I can definitely see the kind of link to that. So very interesting. Very like heavily edited kind of discussion videos as well, which is similar to your content as well. So that's cool.
This is surreal. I've never had anyone ask me this much information about my YouTube channel. This is honestly
Well,
blowing my mind.
it's you.
Thank you for having
This
me
is
out,
all.
for real.
Yeah, no worries. This is all about you. This is all about your content. It's nice. It's just a nice little relaxing discussion. This is a more laid back episode, I gotta say, compared to me being like, "Woo, let's go." I'm just more like, let's just take it back a bit, talk about some videos and stuff,
Well, I mean,
talk
yeah,
about some
you know,
editing.
we're humans. We got problems. We got ups and downs. Most of us poop. I don't know about all of us. Most of us do. It's just, people are people.
We dog people and we're just vibing. We are fully
dog
just
people.
vibing. I mean, in terms of editing and all that, how long would you say your videos take to make? Does it kind of fluctuate in terms of how long it takes?
Oh yeah, it's as varied as the climate system in the world. You cannot in the world call it. I'm not even going to try to say that. I'm sorry. It's extremely varied.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say that it's extremely varied. This one that I'm making right now, I'm redoing the art styles video, finding your art style, and I've made an announcement on a Discord server saying, "Hey, give me your PNG." I'm talking to multiple people, artists I look up to, artists that are smaller than me, artists who are in the same size as me, people who are not artists at all. They're just someone who I thought, "Hey, that's cool. Let me have your PNG. I'd love to edit it." It's sometimes it can take a day. I've made a video in less than 6 hours, and another video like this one probably sunk about 200 hours into it so far.
200 hours. No way. That is insane to me. Because even with my edits, I do not spend that much time on stuff like that. I find long edits really tedious, and like I said, I'll just fixate on it and do like fucking 100 hours on it, and then I'll go, all right, you know what, I'm bored of this. I'll just start working on something else. I swear I have like 8 unreleased projects, like genuinely. Like I have 8 unfinished, unreleased projects that I need to finish, which I will get around to. But for now, I'm focused on the podcast. That's what I want to do.
Well, wait, which one? Which project would you say is the one you look most forward to finishing?
Definitely the B-Stars AMV. I think the B-Stars AMV is kind of the edit that I'll put a little preview of it on the screen for everybody on YouTube, just a little bit of a sneak peek, only like 5-10 seconds. I worked really hard on this, and I think it's a pinnacle of how my After Effects skills have improved over the past 2 to 3 years, and I think it is kind of my crowning achievement of AMVs. But I got really annoyed that this green screen masking thing on Haru's eye at the end didn't fucking work, and it wouldn't, despite me doing it all correctly, just wouldn't fucking work. So then I was like, oh no, screw this, I'm not gonna finish it. I'm just getting really frustrated, because I've tried to learn, when it comes to editing, when it comes to playing video games, when it comes to doing anything, when I stop having fun and when I start getting frustrated and annoyed, I take a break, or I'll stop, because I'm supposed to enjoy, this is my spare time that I'm kind of using to make all this work and to do all these creative things. And if I'm getting annoyed, I'll just take a break, and that's the best thing to do when it comes to creating good stuff, because I used to not do that, and it got to a point where it would be 1 a.m, I would have finished a project, and I'd be like, that part's slightly off, and I'll just get really annoyed at that slight thing being off, because I've worked on it for fucking 6 hours straight in little things. When you start editing, I'm sure you know, when you start editing for that long, you get pissed off at the tiniest things, or if something doesn't work, because you're just tired and you've worked really hard on something. So take breaks. This is to anybody that does anything, just take breaks and you get refreshed straight away. I had a situation where I was really struggling on editing a specific part of an AMV, and then I went to bed and woke up the next day, just did it first try. I say that as it's a video game, but sometimes After Effects, since it's fucking stupid, it won't do what you want it to do. So, and then it'll just suddenly work the next day. So sometimes it's just nice to take a break, if you know what I mean.
I 100% feel it. It's important to take a break. It's important. You don't do your work as well as you could when you don't take breaks.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta have discipline, absolutely. But if you're working on the same composition that you were 2 hours ago because you just can't get his eye socket right, and there's just something wrong about the color gradient, take a break.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's completely flip the conversation. So, furry community, furry fandom, in a sense, you, like we were saying before, you just don't you're not much involved in that, you're just more involved in creative work. is that something that you can see experiencing in the future, potentially, going to conventions or doing anything like that? Or do you think, are you just going to stick to dog person making weird as fuck videos that are like trippy? Is that what you're sticking to? What do you think?
I mean, truth be told, I'm not opposed or in preference of either one. I fell into Poppa Boi, and now I mean, depending on who you ask, I could be involved with the furry fandom every single day. There are schmucks on my server who like to scream, "This is actually a furry server," Poppa, by the way. And then you have the other non-furries come in who argue with them. And it's just, I always hear contrasts of voices and different opinions. And at the end of the day, it's like, regardless of what the furry fandom is or isn't, it's like, I mean, I'm just doing my thing, and whatever happens, happens.
Got a vibe,
maybe,
you know?
Yeah.
See, that's what I did for a solid like 2-3 years. I just had this dog guy that just kind of resembled me slightly. And I was like, I just vibe with this. I didn't do anything with it. But I was just like, sometimes I would, because this was when like Snapchat stickers came up, and it was like Snapchat stickers were like this thing where you could, I don't know, it was hard to explain. It was like when I was 16, 17, like Snapchat stickers were a thing where you could like imagine like highlighting somebody's face on Snapchat stickers and it becomes a sticker and you can just paste it. I did that for the drawings I did of my guy, and I would just put it in like random photos, and that was like my little like sticker, it was my guy. And I didn't do anything more than that. It was just more of a lol dog version of me. And it's just like, that was it. But now it's something way more than that, because I'm part of this very community and I get commissions, etc., etc. And I do think it's something, I've said this in a previous episode, it's something that I gradually kind of learned to accept over time, definitely as well. But I mean, it's nothing bad at all. I love being a furry. I love talking to so many interesting creators and interesting people with weird ass and cool fucking personas. So, you know, it's just a vibe, innit? It's really such a vibe.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just a vibe. If someone calls me a furry, I can't call him out on that. I mean, I can't call him out on that, so I'll just take it. But if someone says I'm not a furry, it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't really have a preference on it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's dope, though, that you can not encapsulate, that's a strong word. You can represent, there you go. You can represent yourself on the internet without actually having to put your face out there. Because it's scary, putting your actual face out there. Because once it's out there, boom, that's it. But this character that you project, it's like a surrogate of yourself.
Yeah, and it is interesting to kind of think of it that way as well. When it comes to what do you study at university?
Bullshit. Man, I partied too hard. I was a business major.
Okay.
Studying Spanish and Portuguese. Then I moved on to history and linguistics.
Oh, interesting. So, because of that, you do history in linguistics, which is completely contrasting the kind of video editing work you do. Is history and linguistics something you want to pursue as a career, or like a similar kind of job including those? Or do you think video editing could potentially be something that you pursue as more of a kind of career or job prospect? Because you do commissions, don't you? You do editing commissions from time to time.
I do. I do. I mean, yeah,
I'm too tired for this shit, dog.
I do. My mind is fried. I do. There's no getting around it. I do commissions, and I actually have them eternally closed. But I still get some people who come in and say, "Hey, can I have a commission?" Mm-hmm. And I just have them closed because I'm always trying to work on my other videos, so that the people that do come in, it's very light, very small traffic. Mm-hmm. Like, I can fit you in here. Mm-hmm. Regarding what I actually want to do, that's a good ass question. My family is asking me, my hermana, my brother, like they're all asking me. It's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? It's like, that's a goddamn good question. I'll let you know when I know. Like,
I mean, you got plenty of time. You got plenty of time to decide.
I mean, yeah, I got time, but time is limited. I mean, it's not like I'm gonna walk on the street and I'm gonna get vored by a politician tomorrow. Probably not. I don't know. The world's crazy in 2020.
Let's hope not.
But really, I mean, I'm not against. I guess it's the same perspective as I have towards the furry fandom. I'm not against it. I'm not actively pursuing it either. Just like whatever happens, happens. I have a proposition from a dude. We call him Colin Moneymaker. He's in New York City right now. I think he might be based in Maryland because of the pandemic. But he's like, finish university, schmuck, and we'll set you up with a bitch job, which would just be an internship at a editing studio. But they don't have access to things like Houdini, the full version of Nuke, all that stuff. That'd be pretty cool to work on. I also have an opportunity to go into master's work and finish up my history. And looking at my GPA, that's probably less likely because I was a frat boy.
Oh, I'm sure you'll be fine. Come on, frat boy? Really? Poppa Boi frat boy?
Frat boy.
God damn. Chad moment? Chad?
Bro, like, people... If I can just say, this is toot my own horn, but if this is going to be about me, then this is my moment to say it. I'm not a model.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be a model to be decent. But every single time that I post my face for the first time, when people see it, they're like, what the fuck? And you're a furry? It's just like, I'm tired. What is that even
No, I
mean,
totally
bro?
get that. I totally get that.
Yeah, it's like, you're a good looking cat. I see you on Twitter, you post pictures of yourself. I'm like, damn, look at that curly hair. It's like, it's a good flow. It's a good look.
Because I had somebody, when I used to talk to people about being a furry, I used to only tell people when I was like really fucking drunk, and I told somebody, and everybody's been really nice about it, but one of the most awkward situations, one of the most awkward replies was like, "You don't look like one." I'm like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? It's like and I'm like, what the fuck is that supposed to? I know, so I totally get that. I totally get that.
It's like, you expect me to walk up to you and I got Cheetos on my hands and I'm a fat lard. It's
such a dumb fucking stereotype. Furries come in all shapes, sizes, backgrounds. It's so dumb to think that all of them are just like fat lowlifes, because that isn't the case, and it's not very nice to think that too. Like, everybody, it doesn't matter what you look like, as long as you're passionate about something and you're passionate about being a furry. Like, who gives a shit? Just vibe and enjoy it. So I didn't really say anything to that person when they said that, but I was a little bit like, I mean, that's just a little bit passive aggressive. So, but I totally fucking get that, like 100%.
Yeah, and that's something also I struggle with, which is actually, I can route that to art too. Is that it's a moment where your ego has a moment to take over, because then I know that I can like show people what I look like, and that'll give me a step up, so to speak. But it's like, that's not what it's about. It's about getting better at art. It's not about the vanity. Because, you go on Twitter and you see all these people sharing pictures of themselves, which is good. I'm all about body positivity.
I mean, I'm all about, I think you say that, but like, motherfucker, I do that all the time. I'm like, look at this photo of me. I look cool. But I mean, it's just a bit more like self-love kind of thing, It's not really like, everybody look at me and look how amazing I look. I'm just more like, I'm vibing today. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I should specify.
People...
part of it is that I'm tired. But you're right. No, it's more so not vanity in the sense of look at how attractive I am, but more so in the sense of gaze upon me. Like, I'm sure you're familiar with, there's certain fursuiters who always make the rounds in Twitter drama, furry fandom, whatever. Like, there's this one dude, he's got tons and tons of cars, and I think it was the same dude that drove a tank, and there was, like, people just hate on him because he's always flaunting his wealth, and not commenting on that exactly, but that is an example of it. It's just presenting what you have rather than what you are.
Yeah, I think there's a bar, and obviously it's nice to be happy for yourself and be confident with who you are in the kind of stuff you're interested in.
Absolutely.
But I think there's a bar where it goes from I'm confident with what I'm doing to I'm putting my hand up, like is if you can fucking see this, but I like it goes from I am confident with what I'm interested in, who I am as a person, to I am better than everybody else. And that's when I start being like, yo, let's fucking tone it down a bit, because like, I don't know, I don't want to get negative on the podcast, but like one of the people people in life I fucking hate the most are people that think they're absolutely legendary when they're just not, and they're just like so full of themselves. But that's like a completely different thing. But
oh yeah, simple petty
I totally
shit.
Get that. Yeah.
Simple petty shit.
Yeah, and it's just dumb. Pure example of somebody in like celebrity land, in music land, that's like that. Jaden fucking Smith. Jaden Smith, I love your music, and I don't love your music. I like it. It's pretty good, but you're just so full of yourself. You're so full of yourself, Jaden. I hope you're listening to this furry podcast. If you are listening to this furry podcast, please tone down the ego, and I'm sure your music will come out better as well if you tone down the ego. Because he thinks he's like a fucking messiah.
Your dad's cool.
I love his music, but yeah, your dad's cool. Your dad's a vibe, but I mean, dog, I just gotta say, like, I love your music, man, but I just can't stand your personality. You're just so fucking egotistical and obnoxious. There's like a Genius video where it's like, I made Icon because I am an icon. I see myself up there with Jimi Hendrix. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're like Will Smith's son.
Oh man,
you're the Kid and Karate Kid remake. I mean, which is a pretty good film, but
can't say I ever saw it.
You haven't seen the Karate Kid remake?
Nah, I've never seen
with Jackie Chan? So fucking based. It's just it's awful. It's awful. But it's a film that I've like watched like a good few times. Anyway, let's segue from that.
Yeah. Segue from the gossip. What's up next?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked for over like half an hour now, so we should move on to the album choice for this week, which is Plastic Beach by Gorillaz. Fun fact about this album, this was my first ever vinyl record that I bought. So there you go, that's something. So why did you choose Plastic Beach in particular? What was it about Plastic Beach that you said, I want to talk about this on the podcast?
Half of it is that it is one of the few albums that I've ever actually sat down and just listened all the way through. I'm a very eclectic person. I'll just put on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Napster, whatever. And I'll just let it rip through the random.
Yeah.
But when it released in 2010, I was in 8th grade, and I remember seeing it on the heavy-ass LCD flat-screen TV that was probably way more expensive than it was worth. And I was like, oh my God, look at those graphics, that 3D clutter. And it blew my mind. And like the lore with 2D and noodles, and she would get inside Russell's mouth and it was like, oh my God, it's a submarine. And all that, and it was not only the visuals but the music too, because you had Snoop Doggy Dogg rapping in the intro, and then you had the orchestral symphonic symposium in the beginning as well, and then you also had just this melancholic. Well, actually, Melancholy Hill. It's literally the name. It goes all over the place.
It is melancholic. Obviously, I gave this a re-listen to because I had listened to it before. I used to be a massive Gorillaz fan back when I was like maybe 16. I listened to Plastic Beach. I listened to Demon Days. I do think Demon Days is still my favorite record of them, which I talked about on a episode a few episodes prior with Crunchy Shark. But Demon Days, I think I'm quite biased to Demon Days because it has the feature of MF Doom. But Plastic Beach, I think, has a more set aesthetic, and I do love that. It feels like a set album. And I do remember finding the beginning of the record very, not boring, but just like, I didn't really enjoy it. Orchestral intro to like White Flag. I didn't like any, like, those 3 songs. Not like I hated them, but I didn't vibe with them too much. After re-listening, I do have a bit more of a newfound appreciation for them, but they're still not as good as some other specific songs on the album. So what would you say is your favorite on the album?
Rhinestone Eyes, hands down.
Rhinestone Eyes, fantastic. When it goes in, like, I don't know when I don't know like the exact timestamp, but you know the part I'm on about doing. Oh no, maybe that's a different one. I'm trying to think. Maybe that's Empire Ants. Maybe it's Empire Ants that goes really in. What's the one that's like, oh joys of us, the sun has come again, or whatever the fuck? That's Empire Ants, in it.
I think so.
Was it?
I don't quite remember.
But there's a not a beat switch, but there's a kind of like the beat kicks in Empire Ants at a certain time. But Rhinestone Eyes is also, well, I mean, you can also say the same thing for Rhinestone Eyes, because that's the one that's like the weird ass, like, is it a synth? Do you know what I mean? It's like the keyboardy kind of.
Which one, Rhinestone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the exact one.
Yeah, I love that. And with Rhinestone Eyes and Empire Ants, they both had, I don't know if you've seen, but they both had like storyboard music videos for them, I think. and they looked absolutely beautiful.
Did you see the fan made one that they redid?
I think that's the one I'm on about. I don't think it's an official one. I think it might be a fan made one. It's fantastic.
Yes, it's beautiful. God.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Talk about tenacity. That's what I'm saying. It's not about talent. It's about tenacity. That's what gets you through. Motivation is beautiful, but it's fleeting. Discipline. That's what gets you through. That's what makes the cut.
My favorite song on the album by far is Super Fast Jellyfish. I remember listening to Super Fast Jellyfish on fucking repeat when I first started listening to the album. Fantastic. I love the intro. It like sounds like an old like kids cereal TV commercial, and then it just goes in, the rap comes in, and then it has like the chorus of super fast. I love it. So good. Fantastic song.
The tone, I forget the exact rapper's name, the same one who did Clint Eastwood in the 2000 album, but just the moment he says pre-packages of Frosted Delights.
Yeah. Comes the toy. I like that. It's good shit. It's so good. I love it. Good. Trying to think of it. There's so many solid picks on this album. It's a very, very good album, and I can see why for a lot of Gorillaz fans, this is their favorite Gorillaz album. Definitely. I think the only reason apart from the MF Doom song on Demon Days, I prefer that is just like nostalgia factor. I remember listening to, even though I got into Gorillaz obviously a few years ago, like properly, I do remember listening to Demon Days more kind of throughout my childhood. I remember being really scared of the Feel Good Inc. Music video, because I was like 5 when that song came out, so like scared the shit out of me. I remember being on TV and I was being like really scared. Anyway, enough about Demon Days. I think the self-titled is really nice as well. I'm trying to like describe specific parts of the album. You will know exactly what I mean when if you've listened to this record, which I hope you have in preparation for the podcast. But there's just so much you can talk about. I think Broken is kind of an underrated song. I think Broken's a fantastic song on the album. Very relaxing, very slow, which is nice. Is there any other ones that you kind of stands out for you?
Maybe this stems from the fact that I'm a history major. I've always got to separate things into different categories for what they represent. But if we're just talking like off the bat, probably other than Rhinestone Eyes, the ones that I find myself going back to is always the Glitter Freeze, because of the SOS. They're actually spelling out in Morse code the name of the album, Plastic Beach. You might have known that already. Oh shit!
Yeah, because it's got that at the stop, like where's north from here, and then it goes like that's fantastic.
Morse code's actually really easy to pick up. If you're gonna be in pandemic for much longer and you're twiddling your thumbs, maybe pick it up. I don't know whenever you would use it, but maybe you would one day. It's just little things like that. In more of the songs than not, there are always these little touches like that self-reference other moments, either in the album itself or from the lore of years past, or even alluding to something. Like on the storyboards for Rhinestone Eyes, you have the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and those were references towards what was to come regarding Murdoch's transgressions against the music industry. And then you just add other cool things like Snoop Dogg holding the gun. That's always fun. I don't know. It's really hard for me to pick now that I actually think about it, because Rhinestone Eyes was just always there because I always thought it was cool. But then the rest of them, I just let it flow. I'll just play the album once in a blue moon, and then maybe I'm listening to Stylo, and I'll just listen to that on loop.
Stylo's so good. Like you've got like the kind of that keyboardy like bing bing, and then you got like the when it goes like, is it love? Is it electric? It's so good, so good. Like the is it Bobby Womack that's on that?
Maybe
is it his vocals or maybe?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's just overall, and we haven't even talked about the kind of most popular song on the album, On Melancholy Hill, which is obviously a lovely, lovely song. I do find that song a tiny bit repetitive, and I do think it doesn't provide the same unique kind of lyricism and production as some of the other songs on the album, but it's still a really good song. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it, but I do think it isn't the best song on the album, but it's still great.
It is
and
good.
I think that's
I don't think
yeah.
it's the best
and
one you've done the album.
yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's like the worst song, the quote unquote worst songs on this album, like aren't even bad. Like they're still good. It also in terms of talking about messages and like how obviously Gorillaz have a lot of lore because they're obviously a virtual band. That like it's obviously they've created these characters based on just like these fucking weird ass like gorilla like people who have went through a story throughout all their albums, and this is no exception. I do think Plastic Beach's story and everything behind the album is the record that I remember the most in terms of story. And it also has an underlying message about the environment as well, I'm pretty sure, because it's about like Plastic Beach, you know. I'm pretty sure I'd read something about it anyway, at least, that it was kind of vibing of that as well.
I've always somewhat imagined that, but I never looked into that. You have a point. That does just seem something Gorillaz would do.
Yeah. I do also remember really liking the song To Binge with Little Dragon. That's, again, similar vibes to Broken, where it's a more relaxed, like, ballady kind of thing, and it is really, really nice. And I do like an album that, obviously, I was talking about other albums on the podcast, about sometimes, even though I do like a solid concept for a record, and I do like songs sounding similar because it shows that it's one set piece of art, sometimes it does get a little bit too similar and too samey. But I love how Plastic Beach maintains an aesthetic, but every single song is unique with every single song's unique and different, and also the features. I think what Humans got wrong, Humans is another album by Gorillaz. What Humans got wrong is that there was so many features, and I don't think the features were implemented really well in the tracks and they weren't thought about. But I think every single feature or at least most, if not all, the features in Plastic Beach are implemented in songs perfectly. The singer or the artist fits that song perfectly, and the lyrics that they sing are perfect, and or the production that they apply to the song is really, really good. So just overall, really well structured, solid album. I love it so much. It's fantastic. I'm gonna listen to more Gorillaz now because I went off them, but now I'm gonna go back on them. Definitely.
No, it's all good. It's good to hear someone's perspective on it.
Yeah. My friend Anderson, well, my flatmate, he just bangs on about fucking listening to Song Machine all the time. He's like, Song Machine season 1's so good. And I'm like, oh, it's not even... He's like, so good, bro, listen to it. And I'm like, it's not really my thing. That's what I'm talking about. I was like, Gorillaz aren't my thing too much, but I think they will stop to become my thing again, because it does get a little bit boring when I just constantly just listen to experimental hip-hop. It just gets all samey sometimes. And I do need to broaden my music taste maybe a little bit more. I was looking at my topster that I made like a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh my fucking god, it's just like 80% rap, and that is bad. So I definitely want to expand my music taste. And again, I've said this so many times on the podcast, but this is what the podcast is about, is not only introducing me to new music, but bringing me back to music I used to be really into, that I can kind of have another like retrospect discussion about. So yeah, obviously you were saying you listened to it when you were in like grade school. Did you ever listen to any of the other albums before that? Did you listen to Demon Days and stuff, or was Plastic Beach your introduction to Gorillaz' discography and as a band?
I mean, Gorillaz' Plastic Beach was the first one that really got me into the lore and everything of it. But I mean, I'm the oldest of Gen Z. I'm 24. One of my memories is hearing my brother on the radio play 19-2000, and
oh, that's such a tune.
Like, it was everywhere. I remember maybe it was 2002 when I first heard it, but I was only 6 at the time. I was a young pup, and I was like, oh, what is this? And my brother's like, well, baby, it's Gorillaz. And so you play it in the car when I was bumping around with him. And
my favorite song on the self-titled, which has 19-2000 on it, is definitely Tomorrow Comes Today. And Tomorrow Comes Today is probably my favorite Gorillaz song ever. It's fantastic.
It's a fantastic song.
Yeah. Overall, Gorillaz always have a solid discography despite a few shortcomings and Humans. But their recent stuff seems really intriguing, really well made, and I do think Song Machine, even though I haven't listened to it back to front yet, or front to back, whatever the fuck, It's similar to Plastic Beach in the sense that there's a lot of features, but apparently they're all used in a way that enhances the likability and the listenable kind of nature of each of the songs, and it makes them enjoyable, which is what I want to see, which isn't what Humans did. So, fuck Humans, all my homies hate Humans. There's going to be some guy that's like, Humans is my favorite Gorillaz album, what are you talking about? And I'll be like, oh, come on, man, it's like dumb, it's shit, it's awful. It's not awful, it's like probably give it like a 4 out of 10 or something. It was just really disappointing because it was the first record that they released after Plastic Beach, and it was just so disappointing to me. The singles that they released for it were great, but then all the other, it's so long. It's fucking like, I mean, it's an hour and 9, but there's like so many songs in it. It's weird, but yeah.
Humans, strictly regarding its musical qualities, it left me hanging. I will say that.
Yeah. Anyway, we talked so much about Gorillaz, talked so much about Plastic Beach. If you haven't listened to the album for the podcast, definitely give this one a listen. This is a solid recommendation from me as somebody who used to be a big Gorillaz fan and somebody who's came back to listen to this album. Fantastic album, and definitely listen to it. And on that note, we will move on to the film choice of this week, which was Eraserhead, directed by David Lynch. Dog, this film was fucking weird. Why did you pick it? Please explain why you picked it. I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was great.
It's not bad.
It's not bad, but it's fucking... I was watching this and being like, what is going on in this dude's head that picked this for a podcast? So let's dive into that. Why did you decide to choose this film for the podcast?
All right. So, true. I mean, in retrospective, I feel like that word's going to pop up a lot more now that you said it. But in retrospective, when I was signing up for your collection service on Google Forms or whatever, you asked for a movie, and I was like, Sisterhood of Traveling Pants? No, I've talked about that enough already. So I'm thinking to myself, and I'm like, what's a movie that's like, it doesn't have to be like your favorite movie, just one that like sticks out. And I was like, Eraserhead fits that. I don't hate it. I don't even necessarily dislike it because I've watched it more than once. And so I was like, yeah, we could explore that. Why not?
Eraserhead. It sure does stick with you. It sure does stick out. If people don't know for context, this film is directed by David Lynch. Now, I'm a massive, massive Twin Peaks fan. Twin Peaks is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Fantastically made. And that's directed by David Lynch as well. And there is a kind of sense of, I watched Eraserhead, and I was like, I can tell this is directed by David fucking Lynch. I really, really can. And that's not a bad thing. Definitely not a bad thing. But it does have a sense of going beyond the kind of elements of weird.
Yeah, like supersedes it all.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I just remember sitting and watching this film in like every like 5 minutes. I'd be like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm not going to lie, I did cheat a little bit when discussing this film because I did look up, after I watched it, I looked up I went on the Wikipedia and I looked at the plot description and I was like, oh, okay, so that's what that was. Like, I didn't even realize that that woman was in the fucking radiator. I didn't know she lived in the radiator. Like, that's so weird. What goes through that man's head to think, oh yeah, let's have a character like living in a radiator that like squishes weird aliens with her feet? And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Something I want to discuss before we go deep into the film is I saw a comment because I was watching scenes of it on YouTube, and I saw this comment that was like, this is true horror. And I hate when people say that shit, especially when it's like, this is true cinema. Because to me, true cinema just doesn't fucking exist. Like, true cinema, people watch, like, I don't know, Jurassic Park and be like, this is true cinema. Like, no, it's true cinema in your eyes, but true cinema in someone else's eyes might be like Alvin and the Chipmunks 2, The Squeakquel. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cinema and film is so subjective. And I'm not saying like Alvin and the Chipmunks 2, The Squeakquel is true cinema, because it isn't, obviously. But it was just a funny example. But what I'm trying to say is film is subjective. You can have classics. You can have classic films. But this idea of true cinema that is, you know, kino, you know, film art, like you know, all that rubbish is, I think that's subjective because my idea of something being true cinema is going to be different to somebody else's true cinema, and that inherently doesn't make it true end all cinema. I mean, you can say the same thing for classics, but that's a complete. I don't want to go on about this too much, but that is my take on that comment bugging me about saying this is true horror. Because I mean, true horror might be something like someone might watch Midsummer, if you see Midsummer directed by Ari Aster, and say this is true horror. But then somebody else might be like, the entire thing's set in the daytime. How the fuck can it be horror? And it's like, it's just different. Everybody has different opinions. True horror. I know it might be true horror in your eyes, and that's fine. But to me, that it isn't true horror because I don't think I was scared by it. But it just made me feel weird and uneasy, definitely. And I do think that is an element of a horror. So how did this film, I don't know if you watched it recently or obviously you've watched it a few times, because I feel like I've talked a shit ton. How did it make you feel? Did it scare you or did it just make you feel really weird? Were you just like, what is going on?
When I saw Eraserhead for the first time, I couldn't have been any older than 14. When you're 14, you know, you're kind of a dumbass in several ways. You're not stupid, but you're kind of a moron. And I still kind of am a moron, so I kind of have the same perspective to it now as I did then. As when I first saw it, I had like just finished watching Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and I popped it in. Okay, cool. Because I bought it off Amazon.com. Because I was like, oh, that's cool. My friend from down the street, and he was a massive 4chan user and like all that stuff back in 2011. And he was like, oh man, you gotta watch Eraserhead, it's so crazy. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, man. And so I watched it, and it was just simultaneous, not repulsing, that's too strong of a word. It was simultaneously making me want to stop watching it, but also consistently more immersed into it because trying to describe that film is like me trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing with my stuff. It's like a surreal fever dream. It's what you put into it is what you get out of it, and you can say that about anything, even postmodernist art. But it's just like when he cuts open the baby and its organ, it just splats out, and it's like,
and then it just starts like expanding and shit. I do have. I'm gonna look. You can hear my pages. You know, I do have some of my notes for uni when I did look at horror. And there is a theory to that about like horror makes us feel uneasy and scared a little bit, but it's the idea of being scared or being like feeling weird and grossed out that makes us engage with it more. It's like the I don't know. I'll see if I can find it. It's I think it's called like the paradox of because it's like the paradox of horror. It's like it's a theory with Noel Carroll. It's like the universal theory. Horror attracts because anomalies demand attention and elicit curiosity, and that's exactly what it is. I did feel engaged with the film, but I was engaged with the film because I wanted to see how weird it could get, and like how can you top this? Because at first, when the baby was first appeared, I was like, "What the fuck is that thing?"
So talk.
And then it got even worse. And I was like, "What is going on?" I do feel it was weird in terms of the pacing. The pacing was really, I can't describe it. It was, I feel like nothing happened or like minimal happened in the space of an hour and 40 or like no, it's not an hour and 40. I think it's like an hour and 20. So around then, like an hour 20, hour 30 of the runtime, like not much happened at all. But I wasn't checking, it wasn't in a sense slow paced because I wasn't checking, etc. Like, you know, when it was going to be, like when it was going to finish or whatever, or when it was going to, you know, change it up. But it did seem very, like I said, not a lot happened in the space that the film, you know, in the runtime. So it was really weird. Did you feel the same way, would you say? Because I feel like it was like, realizes his lass is pregnant, lass gives birth, tries to look after it, then the lass leaves, then the weird lass in the radiator appears, and then the baby starts doing weird shit, and then he has a dream with has an affair with the person next door, then wakes up from the affair or whatever. I don't know what happens and stuff. Then his head falls off, and then is like, you know what? I'm like completely contradicting my statement. You know what? A lot of shit happened in that film, and it was a lot of weird shit. I don't know. It just made me feel really confused. It made me feel really, really confused. That's all I have to say about it. There's a lot. It's good. It was an experience. It was fantastic. But and obviously it's a classic of horror cinema. You know, David Lynch. But
it's true cinema, bro.
It's true cinema. Fuck's sake. I did like it, but just like I said, some of the stuff was just like, what the fuck is going on? Because the reason the name of the film is there is because his head falls off. Then a little boy picks it up, brings it to like a pencil maker, and turns his head into like erasers to put on pencils. And I there's gonna be some film student that's like, it's a representation of like the cycle of life and how we all get interpreted into this form of capitalism where we turn into the things that people use, and it'll be some fucking shit like that. But in reality, you're like, yeah, they've just picked up this like geezer's head and turned it into erasers. Like, what is going on? I did not expect that to happen. I didn't expect it to be so literal.
I mean, dude, there's an entire rabbit hole with this. I really don't know much about David Lynch. I'm gonna be honest. I'm pretty scatterbrained when it comes to it. But with a fair amount of it, it's like there is clearly like inspiration and influence for where this is derived from, and then there's other stuff like taking this man's head to the pencil factory and having some Irish immigrant turn it into an eraser to be used by the British overlord, whatever. It's like, what? I feel like he's just like, hey, let's do this. Why not? We gotta fill up the runtime. Like, I legit just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's how he speaks. He's like, Agent Cooper. He's like, because he acts in his films as well. He acts in Twin Peaks as well. He's a pretty good actor, but he's an odd man, and I do appreciate him for. I mean, this film came out, I think it was 70. I want to say 77. I think.
Yes, sir.
I got it on the money. 77. I just googled it. So this came out in 77, and I do think it is experimental, and it is for the time it was released, and it was an interesting watch, and I do still think it holds up today, and I still think that it's a film that you should definitely experience. It's kind of similar to, in terms of me recommending this film, it's the same recommendation that I would give people when they watch, if I recommended them Neon Genesis Evangelion. You might not like it, but you need to experience it at least once in your life. It is, I do think Eraserhead is. It is a really intriguing piece of film. And even if you think, like, what the fuck just happened, I did not enjoy that at all, at least you know, well, I've watched it now, so at least I can, form an opinion on something so weird and bizarre.
And to those who made it this far in, something that sticks out to me is the sound design. In the 70s, they got this much sound as a student. Maybe he wasn't a student, I don't know. But just like, it took years to make this video because of how sparse their ability to actually perform was. And all these sounds, man. It's like all of these sounds.
It's a lot,
by regular Joes. It's crazy.
You really, really, really off-putting sounds as well. And linking to that, the budget for this film was $10,000 US. But at the same time, you got to add inflation to that, I guess. But that's still a low budget to, what a normal horror blockbuster would be now. And it is interesting to see how they worked around that, or how David Lynch worked around that. And when I was talking about David Lynch to some of my friends who really like some of Lynch's work, they did say it is probably the weirdest film, or one of the weirdest films that he's ever made. So I'm definitely going to check out more of his stuff, because I'm a massive Twin Peaks fan, and I did like this film to an extent. So I think I will check out more of his work. And I do think, like you said about the sound design, he thinks about all the elements of his film and how he can construct a feeling of unease. Because that's his main thing. He does horrors, and he does kind of, thrillers. And he does kind of provide a sense of unease and creepiness. And I mean, I wasn't essentially scared in this film, but it did set me, I was, weirded out. That can we talk about, right, we're on, an hour and 3, so we've only got, a few more minutes. But can we just talk slightly about that scene at the start of the film where the mum goes, "Oh, my daughter's pregnant and you've made her pregnant. You need to cooperate with me to raise the child." And then she just starts giving him hickeys on his neck. Why? What was the point of him what was the point in the mum trying to smooch him? Do you know the part I'm on about?
Yeah, I know the part.
Yeah. Why? What? Why? What was the point? It's so weird.
I mean, if I should have probably looked this. I just rewatched a lot of the parts. I didn't actually sit down to rewatch the whole thing. I'm gonna be brutally honest, but I know exactly which part you're discussing. It's like a fair amount of it seems like things that are happening are things that he's imagining in a certain sense, but they're manifesting themselves to us, the viewer, as though they actually are happening. And it's like, I mean, have you gone, you said you have a girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, have you gone to her house before and eaten dinner with her family?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I am not alluding that her mother did that to you. I don't want to allude to that. But, you know, I mean, maybe you take it better than others, but it's not the easiest thing to do. And, you know, when you're nervous, your palms get sweaty, you're nervous, all of these things are going through your mind. Some people are just weird. Like, maybe in his case, he found his girlfriend's mother sexually attractive. I don't know. Like, I really just didn't know.
No, but it was her. It was her that advanced onto him.
Yeah, it's like a desire manifesting itself when maybe it wasn't actually happening. I don't know. Like, anything in that movie, I cannot say for certain whether it actually happened or not.
It's definitely a film I want to rewatch at some point, because I think similarly, I'm going to compare it to like one of my favorite films of all time, End of Evangelion. I think it's a film that if I rewatch it, I will find a newfound love for it, because I'll understand it more. And it does fall under the category of, there's like two kind of films that are confusing, or like confusing films fall under two categories, sorry. They fall under the category of being confusing, but not interesting enough to rewatch, so it just ends up being a confusing, mediocre mess. Or films that are confusing at a first watch, but you want to engage with it further and you want to rewatch it. And I think Eraserhead, despite it being fucking gross and weird, it is a film I actively want to understand more and actively want to watch again. So it's been successful in that, and I'm sure after a rewatch potentially, I will bump my rating of it up. But overall, I did enjoy it anyway. It was a great pick, so thank you for picking it. It was something outside the box, compared to some of the other choices I got for the podcast. So
what were the other choices, I gotta ask?
Well, just a lot of animated films. I mean, you'll see. I mean, a lot of animated films, a lot of animated furry films, obviously, because it's a furry podcast. But, that's fine. That's the entire point, and I do love... I mean, Fantastic Mr. Fox, again, is one of my favourite films of all time. And that's an animated furry film. So, definitely. Wes Anderson's a genius. I love his work. So, definitely check that out. And on the subject of checking things out, check out Poppa Boi's YouTube, and check out Poppa Boi's Twitter. He makes weird-ass, trippy videos that take a lot of time to edit, so definitely check that shit out. And, I mean, you're working on stuff constantly. You're kind of improving your work, and I love the stuff you're doing, so definitely check out. Links in the description. If you want to follow, updates on the podcast, you can follow me at HypeBeastDan on Twitter, or you can subscribe to YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, or follow on the Spotify and Apple. I really appreciate it if you do, guys, especially downloads. Now I'm getting to the point with the podcast where I'm kind of looking for sponsorships. I mean, I did say I don't give a shit about sponsorships, I don't give a shit about money, because I don't, but it would be a nice little addition, because I spend a lot of time doing this stuff, and I spend a lot of time, kind of working and organizing everything. So it would be nice to get a little bit of a, nice little, monetary bonus to it. And in order to apply for the ad program with my host, I need to have 500 downloads. I'm currently on, this is being recorded like way in advance, and I've only uploaded a few episodes, but I'm on like around 220 or something, which is fantastic. I'm already halfway. So if people want to, support it, just download the episodes, check it out. That'll be fantastic. And that's basically everything from me. If there's anything else you want to say, anything else you want to plug, Poppa Boi.
Thanks for giving me the time of day to talk. That's about it.
No, really. It was a great episode. Great choices. It was just a vibe. So yeah, that's all from me, guys. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next week.